Thank you, sir, for those nice words and nice introduction. And I think we should start immediately to our topic.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll start sharing my screen of a PowerPoint presentation. So, friends, can you see the screen?
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Okay, fine. So, our topic is smart water and solid waste management in smart cities. So, as sir was telling, first it is important to know what is smart city and why this initiative was started. What is the background of this initiative? So, friends, the smart city project was launched by our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi in the year 2015. So you may be knowing that traditionally India is called as the country of villages. 80% people stay in villages, our Mahatma Gandhi used to say. But now that is changing fast, and now around 31% population in India lives in cities, and in another 10 years this will reach to 40%. So the roles of cities is going to be more and more dominant. In 1939, 1939 was the year of world recession, and the United States invested massively at that point of time to come out of this recession in the cities, because cities are called as growth engines of the country, particularly the economic growth, and this has resulted tremendous economic growth in US cities. When you visit US cities, you can see those skyscrapers. In every, even medium level cities, you will see astonishing skyscrapers. So with this background, the government of India also recognized the importance of cities, and the government has selected 100 smart cities through a two-stage process. So there are 100 smart cities all over India, and these cities have prepared projects worth almost rupees 2 lakh crores, and projects worth almost 1,40,000 crores have been completed for nearing completion. So this was the statement of our Prime Minister yesterday. So now, because of the technology, the data is available very fast. So this is the data of yesterday. So you can imagine what tremendous employment potential is available to the young graduates like you. And as far as infrastructure is considered, civil engineering is more important, and so civil engineering students are going to gain a lot through this smart city project. Now, as sir was saying, first it is important to know what is the definition of smart city. So as you know, you are living very close to Delhi. Many people laugh when we talk about smart city. अरे क्या है स्मार्ट सिटी, हमारे दिल्ली में देखो कितना पॉल्यूशन है, पहले वो सिटी को क्लीन बनाओ, बाद में सोचो स्मार्ट सिटी बनाने के लिए. तो ये भी सही है. तो मेरे ख्याल से भी शहर को सबसे पहले स्वच्छ होना सबसे ज़रूरी है, एंड ऑफ कोर्स स्मार्ट होना भी ज़रूरी है. तो मेरे ख्याल से क्लीन सिटी इज़ मोर इम्पोर्टेंट, एंड व्हेन वी से क्लीन सिटी, it is more important to talk about water and solid waste management. So in any city, water and solid waste management are very important. In fact, all these urban local bodies, we say municipal corporations or municipalities, their primary work was solid waste management. Solid waste, they born for that. So as far as city is concerned, city government is concerned, water and solid waste management are very important, and we can manage them very smartly. So that is the topic of today's presentation, that is smart city water and solid waste management. So we are going to first discuss about the definition of smart city, what is smart city. Then we will consider what are the total features of a small city, all the features of a small city, and then we will focus on the water and solid waste management part of it. So that will be our today's agenda. So right students, first we will discuss what is smart city, what is the definition of smart city. So as Parvate sir has exactly told, there is no universal accepted definition of smart city. Smart city would have a different connotation in India than say Europe. Even in India there is no way of defining a smart city. So a small slum dweller will have different expectations from a smart city than a person residing in a tower. And urban ecosystem, as sir told, it comprises 4 pillars of comprehensive development. तो कौन से पिलर्स है ये 4 पिलर्स? इंस्टीट्यूशनल, जैसे कि हम कोई भी म्यूनिसिपल कॉरपोरेशन में जाते हैं, यू कम अक्रॉस टू वेरियस ऑफिसर्स, द स्टाफ, एंड हाउ दे रिएक्ट टू यू, हाउ दे sort out your grievances, all those things come into the institutional. Physical means when you go outside the city, you see the roads, you take water from the city government, your solid waste is governed by the municipality. So that is all physical. How many playgrounds are there, how many gardens are there, how many open spaces are there. Then social. So what social facilities are there in the city? How many schools are there, where the schools are proper, how many colleges are there, how many hospitals are there in the city. So there should be adequate number of schools, colleges, hospitals that provides the social and health infrastructure and economic infrastructure. Now city invariably has got various offices, industries, commercial establishments, hotels, etc. So why people migrate from rural areas to city? Because of employment. And to run these economic institutions there should be proper infrastructure, like people should be able to go to their offices properly. So the transport network of a city should be very good. So many cities are known for their excellent transportation infrastructure, but this is becoming a challenge for many cities as the economy is growing. As people are having more and more money, they are purchasing more and more cars, two-wheelers, etc. And due to this, the traffic time is increased day by day. So the smart cities should look properly at this problem. So this can be a long-term goal, and cities can work towards developing such comprehensive infrastructure, incrementally adding on layers of smartness. That is, initially you should have a proper arrangement. You should have big roads, your traffic time should reduce. That should be the first sign of smartness. And then next is the automation, cameras, and they're managing this infrastructure properly. That comes later. So all this definition and other major things about smart cities, you will get to know about them on the website of the Government of India, which is smartcities.gov.in. So please go to this website and find out more about these smart cities. So as I told you earlier, there are 100 smart cities in India. So which are the typical smart cities? So it will not be possible to give me all 100 smart cities. So I will give you typical examples by covering the smart cities declared in the states of UP, where your college is located, and Maharashtra, from where I hail from. So in the first stage, Pune and Solapur were declared as smart cities, and no city from UP was declared. In the second phase, no city from Maharashtra was declared, but Lucknow from UP it was declared. Then in the third stage, Agra, Kanpur, Varanasi from UP were declared as smart cities, and from Maharashtra, Nagpur, Nashik, Thane, Kalyan and Aurangabad, they were declared. And in the fourth and final stage, Aligarh, Prayagraj, Jhansi from UP were declared as smart cities, and from Maharashtra, Pimpri Chinchwad was declared as smart city. So first we will discuss what are the general features which are covered under smart cities. So first is the citizen participation. So smart city constantly adapts its strategies, incorporating views of its citizens to bring maximum benefits to all. So citizen participation is very important. Unless you take the support of people, you cannot you cannot become successful in any mission, any scheme of the government. So imagine the process of conducting general elections of a country like India. So as you know, all schools, colleges, almost a complete infrastructure of the country is used, and therefore we successfully conduct elections in a vast state like India. So you imagine we are more advanced in conducting elections than US. US after so many days they are still counting the votes. So that why we are successful in that, because the citizen participation. And nowadays, because of social media like Facebook, Twitter, we can more effectively use the citizen participation. In Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai, from where I belong, there is a platform called as ALM, or Advanced Locality Management, so which is very effectively used for citizen participation. So Mumbai city has got 24 wards, and in each ward we have got what is called as ALM, and they are supposed to conduct meetings every month, once one meeting in a month, and where you can directly tell your grievances, feedback to the ward officer and the complete staff of that ward. So you can tackle the issues, because all the government agencies are facing acute shortage of staff, and therefore citizen participation will strengthen this weakness, and they will support the administration in completing their agenda successfully. So the most important thing is citizen participation. Then identity and culture. A smart city has unique identity which distinguishes it from other cities based on some key aspects like its location, its climate, etc., its industries, its cultural heritage, its local culture or cuisine, and other factors. This identity follows an easy answer to the question, why in this city and not somewhere else? A smart city celebrates and promotes its unique identity and culture. For example, Pune, the Ganesh Chaturthi festival is celebrated in a big way. So that is the cultural identity of Pune. In Mumbai, Dahi Handi or Govinda is very famous, and when these Dahi Handis are there, people from sometimes other countries also come and see that. Lucknow, for example, is famous for Nawabi culture. My native city Kolhapur is famous for wrestling or kushti. So like that, every city has got its own cultural heritage, and that should be celebrated. Then the third feature is economy and employment. A smart city has a robust and resilient economic base and growth strategy that creates large-scale employment and increases opportunity for the majority of its citizens. So as I told you earlier, the robust economic growth is more important, and you should have proper areas where this infrastructure is created. For example, in Mumbai there is National Stock Exchange. Like that, every city has got its own employment generation industries, and they should be properly taken care of. Their needs such as water, electricity should be sorted out. Then health. A smart city provides access to health care for all its citizens. So in the terms of healthcare, India is becoming very popular worldwide because our doctors are very skilled, very intelligent, and it is affordable. So even people from developed countries like UK, US come here for the medical treatment. So, but the need of the hour is at government level we should have strong hospitals, so that all citizens get access to these hospitals. Then there are 24 such features. We have seen some of them. So next feature is education. A smart city offers schooling and educational opportunities for all children in the city. So certain areas where the number of colleges are less, you should promote formation of more colleges in those localities. Or school education, if schools are less, there are certain norms, so you should provide schools with international standards. The next feature is mixed use. A smart city has different kinds of land use in the same places, such as offices, housing, shops. They should be clustered together. For example, so if offices are there, there should be housing also, there should be shops also, there should be restaurants also. So all these mixed patterns should be there in the city. Compactness. A smart city encourages development to be compact and dense, where buildings are ideally within 10-minute walk of public transportation and located close together to form concentrated neighborhood and centers of activity around commerce and services. So this compactness is a unique feature of all big cities in US or any big city in India also. For example, in Mumbai, there is area called as Nariman Point. So you can see multiple multi-storied buildings and they are very close to each other. So because of that, the walking distance decreases. So if offices are located in a scattered manner, that is very difficult and that is not called as smart. So there are business districts. Like now in Mumbai, another business district coming up is Bandra Kurla complex. So where again you will find that compactness is there. Then open spaces. A smart city has sufficient usable public open spaces, many of which are green, that promote exercise and outdoor recreation for all age groups. So public open spaces of a range of services are dispersed throughout the city, so all citizens have access. So many cities are famous for their open spaces. For example, Bangalore is called as City of Gardens. Even Pune, there are large number of gardens, where particularly at senior citizens level, they need such spaces where they can spend the time peacefully. So these open spaces are very important in enhancing the quality of life. So every city should try to be the most livable city. So like Melbourne is called as most livable city in the world. The next features is housing and inclusiveness. A smart city has sufficient housing for all income groups and promotes integration amongst social groups. So many big cities are facing this problem where many people can't afford the house in cities like Mumbai, Delhi. The cost of housing is very big. So people are going to extended suburbs and then they have to travel all the way to the South Mumbai. So that is because of the scarcity of housing. So a smart city should reduce this problem by providing affordable housing. Transportation and mobility. A smart city does not require automobile to get around. Distances are short and buildings are accessible from the sidewalk, and transit options are plentiful and attractive to people of all income levels. So public transport is a key element of smart city. So if you travel to New York, you can reach from any point of New York to any point by their metro network, which is the network of trains, and it is very affordable. Same is the case for London. Same is the case for Bay Area in California, where the public transport is very good and you don't have to take a taxi, which is very expensive. So therefore public transport is very important, and Delhi now it has improved a lot by providing metro network. Mumbai, the local railway station is very remarkable, and soon there will be a lot of metros. So like that, we should try for transportation and mobility. Walkables. A smart city roads are designed equally for pedestrians, cyclists and vehicles. and road safety and sidewalks are paramount to street design. Traffic signals are sufficient and traffic rules are enforced. Shops, restaurants, building entrances, trees line the sidewalk to encourage walking, and there is ample lighting to the pedestrians so that pedestrians feel safe day and night. So walkability is very important part. If you go to countries like US, people who are walking are given preference, and these rules should be followed strictly. So in many cities in India, even the traffic signal for walking is on, the rights of the walkers are not respected, and somehow the people have to run through the roads, which is very risky. So priority of the people who are walking is very important. Many times you find that footpaths are occupied by hawkers, so there is no space available for walking on the footpaths also. So like जैसे hurdle होती है ना, hurdle race. So now the people have to walk like they are crossing some hurdle race of Olympics. So that type of situation should not be there. Then IT connectivity. A smart city has a robust internet network allowing high speed connections to all offices and dwellings as desired. So this internet network should be available in all smart cities, and even at places like railway stations, airports, this is available nowadays. Then what are the other features? Intelligent government services. A smart city enables easy interaction with its citizens, eliminating delays and frustrations in interactions and with government. So many central government offices now have implemented this intelligent government services. For example, if entrepreneur like me wants to pay my GST, I don't have to go to any office. I just can sit on my before my laptop and pay through my internet bank account. So any permissions, for example, you want to get copyright for your book, you don't have to visit Delhi. You just upload your book and you get the permission. So intelligent government services, but as far as ULBs or urban local bodies are concerned, they are still lagging behind in developing these intelligent government services. So I think they should also, they have already started in many areas, but there is room for improvement. Then energy supply. A smart city has reliable 24/7 electric supply with no delays in requested hookups. So 24 hours electric supply is very important. I am fortunate that I am staying in Mumbai, where there is 24/7 electric supply. And sometime back, 1 month back, when there was shortage for 3-4 hours, that event was discussed so much on Twitter, and there were humorous tweets and all that, how it can happen in Mumbai. So I feel that all cities in India should have similar 24/7 electric supply. Then energy source. A smart city has at least 10% of its electricity generated by renewables. As you know, our Prime Minister is pushing the agenda of solar energy very hard, and now the rooftop solar energy projects are almost very profitable in nature, and then but there is lagging. Many housing societies, many buildings still do not have these rooftop solar energy projects, even though net metering is now started. So particularly your common lighting should be done 100% by solar energy. So the target for smart cities is that their 10% of this electricity should be generated by renewables. So why there is limit? Because the energy supplying companies, they should also run their business properly. So the target is that in the city, the residents should get electricity from the electricity providing companies, but the common lighting should be done through the renewable energy like solar energy. Water supply. So water is one of the main focus of this lecture. So what the smart city features say about water supply? A smart city has a reliable 24 by 7, that is round the clock water supply should be there. That meets national and global health standards. So now what is the scenario? All cities including Mumbai get water only for a brief period of the day, just for 2 to 4 hours, and then the water is also supplied to those 2 4 hours, so that people store the water, and next day when the fresh water comes many people throw this water, so there is a lot of wastage, and therefore there are many problems because of this intermittent water supply. Sewage contamination takes place when water is not flowing through the pipelines, and then this gives rise to diseases. So in countries like Japan, the water is supplied 24 by 7, so no need to have storages, and then it has got many benefits. But there are many technical difficulties in vast countries like India, like there are leakages, and then the demand goes on increasing, so therefore it has not been possible to apply this scheme even for big cities like in Mumbai. But this should be our long term target. Then water management. A smart city has advanced water management programs including wastewater recycling, smart meters, rainwater harvesting, green infrastructure to manage stormwater runoff. So water should be managed in a smart way. So there should be recycling of wastewater, and then the wastewater should be treated, and for flushing, for example, in city like Mumbai, the water comes from 45 kilometers, government spends tremendous amount of money, and for flushing we are using this treated water which is very costly. So why we should not use our own, for example, wastewater, give it treatment and use it for flushing? So you can conserve water, and then you can make it available for people who are needy. So sewage, there may be problems, but at least grey water, the wastewater which is generated from bathrooms and kitchens is called as grey water or grey waste. So it is not that much polluted, so you can treat this water and use for flushing. So this is called as recycling. Rainwater harvesting. So during rainy season, whatever water is coming from terrace, it can be easily harvested and used. So still many buildings are not having this rainwater harvesting. So this is another target. Then water quality. So many now we are completing targets of our treated water, but as far as sewage treatment is concerned, we are lagging behind. And as you know, the river Ganga flows through UP, and cities like Kanpur, there are tanneries, and sewage is disposed in rivers like Ganga without any treatment. So the target of cities should be, we should have 100% sewage treatment, so that such pollution and deterioration of water quality will not be there. So that is another target. Then air quality. So our air quality should be internationally good standard. So as you know, there are certain norms of good air quality, there are indexes, but now because of winter, stubble burning is taking place, and cities like Delhi, their air quality is deteriorating. And when our capital city is having such air quality, it gives a very bad impression about our country. The President of the United States, in his presidential debate, he openly said the cities in India, the cities are filthy. Because he wanted to say that the air quality of these cities is filthy. So why we should give opportunity to other world leaders to criticize about our air quality? Why our enforcement agencies are not strong, so that they can stop activities which will make our air quality bad? For example, your road sweeping should be proper, your old vehicles should be phased out, industries, particularly the coal burning power plants, they should meet the standards. So if you take your solid waste management projects, they should not emit any dust. So the standards are there on paper, but these standards are not followed. So in all cities, and particularly in smart cities, we should strictly follow the air quality standards. Then energy efficiency. A smart city promotes state of the art energy efficiency practices in buildings, street lights and transit systems. So now there are LED lights. If you use LED lights, there is tremendous saving on electricity. So every building, every flat in a building should have LED lights rather than ordinary lights. In air conditioners, for example, you get what are called as inverter air conditioners, for which the initial cost is slightly high, but in the long run period, the energy efficiency is very high, and that is very good for environment, and we should promote such devices. So same goes for water. Water meters should be located in every flat. Why only for building? Every flat in a housing society should have water meter. Then underground electric wiring. A smart city must have underground electric wiring system to reduce blackouts due to storms and eliminate unsightliness. So many rural areas still have those poles, and during storms what happens, these poles get uprooted and they hamper the electricity supply. So to avoid this, there should be underground electric wiring. Then sanitation. A smart city has no open defecation and a full supply of toilets based on population. So many times we don't provide enough number of public toilets, and which results into the open defecation. So therefore all cities should have enough number of public toilets. So that is called as ODF. So many cities have got ODF, but still it is not followed. In Mumbai, for example, the situation is considerably improved, but earlier when you used to enter Mumbai through trains, you can observe open defecation, which is not good for country like India, and we should not be proud of this. And to avoid this, we should have public toilets, and not merely providing public toilets is not enough. These public toilets should have proper water supply, they should be pleasant, there should be wash basins, there should be mirrors, and then they should be protected properly. So if users pay, you can collect user charges. So if you recover money from this, then there is a possibility that they will be maintained properly. So now Government of India is talking about not only ODF but ODF plus, means these public toilets should be excellent. Like when you go in airport, you can see the toilets. So we should try to compete with the toilets on the airport. So that is possible if user charges are recovered, and that will generate employment also. So those persons who are managing these toilets, they will get a fixed source of income. That is what sustainability is. And users don't mind paying small charges. For example, in Mumbai, there is Juhu Beach. So earlier it was very unpleasant, but now there are public toilets and we have to pay. If you urinate, you have to pay 2 rupees. For WC, you have to pay 5 rupees, and people give that. And then 3-4 people are employed there, and now the conditions of those public toilets is very good, and it's a great convenience for the people. So that should be the model, that should be the benchmark for all cities. Then solid waste management, which is again focus of today's lecture. So a smart, that's why I have marked these points in red color. Have you observed that other points are in black? So these points are in red because this is the focus of today's lecture. So smart city has a waste management system that removes household and commercial garbage and disposes of it in an environmentally and economically sound manner. So all the household solid waste should be collected, commercial garbage or commercial solid waste should be collected, and it should be disposed environmentally and economically sound manner. So we'll consider it in more detail later on. Safety. A smart city has high levels of public safety, especially focused on women, children, and the elderly. Men and women of all ages feel safe on the streets for all the hours. So safety is very important. And then Mumbai is a very safe city. Similarly, other cities like Delhi should be also safe. So that women should find them safe to travel any time of the day or night there. So for that, cameras should be placed, policing should be smart, and all that. So these are the features of a smart city. So then, friends, so far what we have seen is, we have seen the background, how when this smart city program was launched. It was launched in the year 2015, and then 100 cities are declared as smart cities. Then 2 lakh crores rupees budget is there, and out of that almost 75% of budget is over. Then we have seen the definition of smart city. There is no universal definition, but every city has some points to which they celebrate, and the meaning of smart city will be different for different people, different geographies, etc. Then we discussed which are the smart cities in India. There are 100 cities, but we discussed which are the smart cities in UP. For example, Lucknow, then Prayagraj, etc. They are the smart cities in UP. In Maharashtra, there are cities like Pune, Solapur, Thane, Nashik. They are the smart cities in Maharashtra. And after that, we have discussed what are the 24 features of smart cities. And then now we will come to the main point of today's focus. In smart cities, all features are equally important. But as I told you earlier, two of the most important components of the city are transport or traffic and water and solid waste. So in this presentation, I will be speaking on the water and solid waste management. What should be the smart water supply system? What should be the smart solid waste management arrangement in a smart city? So first we will discuss about the smart water supply solutions. So what the smart water supply solutions say? What is the objective? The objective is to ensure equitable distribution of 150 liters per capita per day of water to 100% citizens 24/7, along with best in class customer experience. So like every city has got its vision and mission. You have gone through your NBA accreditation. Your college will be also having your vision statement and mission statement. So this is a mission statement of a particular smart city. What they say is they want to provide the citizens water at the rate of 150 liters per capita per day. What is the Indian norm? Indian norm says 135 liters per capita per day. But their objective is they are going to provide more, and to all citizens. So in many areas, cities, certain areas are water deficient. So they will remove these deficient areas, and 100% citizens should get water at that particular rate, and 24/7. So there should not be gaps in water supply. Water is available all the time, and best in class customer experience. So they should have customer care center. So like your credit card is lost, you take a telephone and you contact the customer care, and you get a very good experience and your card is blocked immediately. Something like that should be also there in the water supply scenario. So that is the best in class customer experience. And your water bill should be transparent and all that. So how it can be achieved? So the first point is smart bulk metering at water treatment plants, elevated surface reservoirs, and selected localities with SCADA, followed by water audit across pipeline. So measurement of water should be proper. At water treatment plants there are big flow meters. Even the elevated surface reservoirs are there in all cities. There should be meters in there also, and there should be SCADA, that is supervisory control and acquisition data system, that should be there in water supply networks. Then helium leak detection system to significantly reduce internal water leakage. So there are leakages due to which the water is lost. So many times the leakages as high as 30 to 40% in certain cities. So you should have advanced leak detection system to detect the leakage and to stop them. 100% smart metering across commercial connections. So the meters should be smart. So in many, most of the cities, these meter readings are taken manually, so which we must get rid of as early as possible. So no need to visit your premises to take the reading. The reading should be directly connected wireless format automatically. So that is possible only when these smart meters are installed. So nowadays smart meters are installed one per building. For example, where I stay in Mumbai, there are around 45 flats, but water meter is only one. So every flat, how much water it consumes, there is no record. So we should go further and see to it that every flat has got one water meter, and then the water is charged as per the individual flat consumption. In fact, many modern buildings have got this type of system, and then you pay also through internet banking. So like that, the most efficient water management will be achieved when we go to this stage of advancement. The next point is smart meters for domestic consumption along with revised telescopic tariffs through a give up water subsidy campaign. What is telescopic tariffs? That is tariffs. That is if you are using very less water. For example, if you go in slum pockets, chawls for example, consumption is very less. So because these people are generally from poor income categories, so for them the water tariff should be very less. But as your water consumption increases, the rate should increase. So like that, that is called as the most rational and equitable charging system which should be followed. And water subsidy give up campaign, that is even rich people, they are given huge subsidy in the water bills. So why that should be there? Because ultimately there is huge cost which the government bears. So it should be no profit, no loss. Now all the water systems are running with huge losses. So by this, if rich people give up their subsidies, then this system, water supply system, can be run on no profit, no loss basis. So like that, our Prime Minister Modi ji appealed to many people that they should give up their gas subsidies, so that poor people can be provided with LPG gas connection. And many people, they just responded to this request, and therefore under Ujjwala scheme, many rural areas, many households are getting gas nowadays. So similar scheme should be there in water. 24/7 water supply to the selected localities in city which comprise domestic, commercial and slum connections. 24/7 water supply people are targeting, but it is very difficult to achieve. So what people are saying nowadays is that don't apply this 24/7 water supply to all cities simultaneous, complete city, but you select a particular ward or particular locality which comprises all the premises like domestic, commercial, slum, and you make the successful experiment there and then implement it across the city. The next point is comprehensive GIS based customer survey to increase the number of recorded connections. So GIS based customer survey should be there, which will increase the recorded connections. Then develop a suitable web app and call center based solutions to address thousands of grievances. Nowadays you have account in bank, you get the app of that particular bank. So similarly there should be app for the water supply department also. There should be call center to take grievances regarding water supply. So similar to like electricity, similar to banks, the water supply department should also have their call center. And you should enable one ITC enabled billing and recovery department for water with world class customer service and improved collections. So this point we have already discussed. You should use technology. Like no water department person should enter the premises to read the water meter. It should be automatically read. So all these modifications are required. The next is steps to convert selected localities into 24/7 supply zones. So we have seen in general what is the smart water supply solutions, and if we want to discuss particularly about 24/7, there are various steps. What are these steps? Bulk and consumer metering in pilot locality. So every consumer has a smart water meter. Erection of community system and pressure transmitters. So pressure transmitters should be there at number of points along the water pipelines. So when the pressure is reduced, it means there is leakage, and when this leakage is there, it should be effectively communicated by a wireless communication system. So leak detection is a major problem in maintaining the 24/7 supply. Study of pressures and flows. You should study these pressures and flows properly. Conduct of water balance using pressure management. So proper water balance management should be there. That is, you are supplying X water, then at the all consumer end you should get X water. So all the additions should result to X, but that is not happening. You are supplying X, but if you add the water which is received at all these consumer ends, and if this addition is called as a Y, then this Y is considerably lesser than X. So where this X minus Y goes, that is a problem. So that should not be there. X and Y should be equal. Consumer awareness in selected pilot locality. So consumers should be trained properly regarding the water supply, the importance of leakage. Nowadays without 24/7 also, people keep their taps open, and which results in wastage, so which should be avoided. Leak detection and repairs followed by water balance. So if you are not getting water balance, you should go for leak detection. After leak detection, you should repair those leaks. So all these things should be taken care of in 24/7. Then only it will be successful. Then replacing GI pipe HSC to blue MDB pipe followed by water balance, modifications per model, and increasing hours of supply without increasing demand. So gradually you should go on increasing your supply hours, but that should not result in increasing demand. That will only happen when there are no leakages. And you should maintain this 24/7 status with citizen support, citizen bodies like ALMs, and operation and maintenance of pilot locality till the whole city becomes 24/7. Then what are the components of smart water management? So what are the different components of smart water management? First is the water source. So what are the water source? Maybe river, lake, or groundwater. So there should be command and control center near the water source, which will analyze real-time data, and it will convey about the water availability patterns. The next component after river is the dam. So you should monitor the dam, you should improve the efficiency and effectiveness, and you should utilize the dam with high utilization. Then after river and dam, the next component is water treatment plant. So as a smart city, water treatment plant should have bulk meter, and you should have real-time monitoring of water followed by water audit. So you should have flow measurement devices like partial flume, etc., which are mechanized. Then after water treatment plant, the next unit is the elevated surface reservoir. So all these elevated surface reservoirs should be smart. Sensors identify leakages and overflow of waters. So because of the sensors, you will come to know immediately if there are any leakages or if there is any overflow. So after these elevated surface reservoirs, water mains start. So there should be leak detection systems. So it should reduce the theft and non-revenue losses. Then after water mains, there is water distribution network. So this network is throughout the city, and then you should map this network with GIS, Geographical Information System, and because of that you get proper modeling and water distribution examination and analysis. Then water SCADA, so supervisory control data acquisition, you can remotely monitor. So you can have only one center, but you know what is happening at a distance of 10 kilometers. If any water pipeline is leaking, this SCADA system will convey that this pressure is decreased, and then you can immediately notice the point of leakage and you take immediate corrective action. So this can be done to the both water supply system as well as sewage system. So friends, so far you are hearing my lecture, and we are conveying so many points in a brief period, but you might have noticed that though you are civil engineering students, you must know many other technologies also. So this is an area of interdisciplinary knowledge. So for example, if you talk about SCADA is the specialization which is looked after by the electronics and communication engineering students. Then GIS, it's a different specialty. Then motors, pumps, mechanical engineering, and all this automation is managed by computer programming. So computer programming is also very important. So as a civil engineer, you should not focus only on civil engineering. This is an age of interdisciplinary fields. So you must know little bit of programming, you must know little bit of GIS, you must know little bit of SCADA. So your focus should be in acquiring interdisciplinary knowledge, which is very important. And in your placements, if you know these other things, you will be given priority in selection. Then what is the next component? So far we have come across the water distribution system. Now you go to the consumers. So now the ball is in the court of consumer. It starts with the water meter. Then this water meter should be smart meter, because of which there should not be any losses. Then all these buildings, you should ask them to have rainwater harvesting. Now this is called as retrofitting. that is in a city, new buildings or greenfield development will be very less. So whatever existing buildings are there, you should try to become smart. They should be forced to become smart. So you must ask them to go for rainwater harvesting. So for example, one of the targets may be you should create 4 lakh liters of sumps for 12 housing societies. So earlier, even if the water is recharged from bore well, that was considered as rainwater harvesting. But the modern target, smart target, is that this harvested rainwater should be reused. So for that you must construct one RCC tank or another tank in which the water is stored so that it will be reused for purposes like flushing. Then only you will get benefit. For example, in Mumbai they give benefit in property tax. So this benefit is given only when this harvested rainwater is reused, or 2.5%, or for example this wastewater, grey wastewater is there, or complete sewage. If you treat it and you reuse it for flushing, then 2.5% is given. If your solid waste, wet waste is composted 100%, you are given 5% benefit in the property tax. And your dry waste like plastic, paper, glass, if you recycle it, then again you are given 5% benefit in the property tax. So you can get 15% property tax reduction if you go for solid waste management and rainwater harvesting and wastewater recycling. So all smart cities should promote by giving concessions in the property tax. Then creations of sumps, say 4 that we have seen. Sewerage system. So the SCADA should be also there in the sewerage system. And your attempt should be 100% sewage treatment. So which is difficult for most of the cities to achieve. Many cities are achieving in the range of 20 to say 40% or 50%. So we should increase our sewage treatment to 100%. Then sewage treatment plant and reuse of treated sewage. So ideally all that water which is supplied should be treated and it should be recycled. So that is the ideal dream. So I don't know how much time it will take to achieve that. So what are the aspirations, key metrics for water and sewage? So as I told, the average water supply should increase. Particular city, for example, say 90 to 120, their target will be to increase it to 150 liters per capita per day. And what is the benchmark for India? It is 135 liters per capita per day. Water deficient areas reduce from say 60 to 70% to 0%. So in cities, if there are certain areas which don't receive proper water, adequate water, so there should not be any such area. So your target should be no water deficient areas in a smart city. Sewage discharge into river, sea without treatment. In Mumbai there is sea, but in Meerut there may not be sea. There may be some river in which they are disposing their treated sewage. So now suppose they are disposing 30% sewage without treatment. Your target should be to bring it down to 0%. Now treated sewage also there are standards. For example, biochemical oxygen demand. So for example, if the present standard is 20 milligrams per liter, you should bring it down further to 10 milligram per liter. So you should yourself apply strict standards. Why National Green Tribunal should come and tell you to go for stricter standards? You should voluntarily adopt these standards. For example, in case of Mumbai, they have designed the sewage treatment plants for 20 milligrams per liter, but somebody went to National Green Tribunal, and then National Green Tribunal now has forced to apply stringent standards, and now the entire exercise has to be redone again. So that should not be the case. We should follow the treated sewage standards of National Green Tribunal. Then leakage and non-revenue water reduced from 30 to 15%. So there is leakage, widespread leakage, 30 to 40%. So our target should be to reduce it to 15%. Rainwater harvesting, from suppose a city has got only 5%, our target should be 100% building should have rainwater harvesting. So we have seen the components of water, smart water. What are the components of smart solid waste management and sanitation? So that is, dustbin should be provided with RFID chips so that a record is maintained remotely whether all the dustbins are emptied or not. All these transportation trucks which carry the solid waste should be provided with GPS so that they are remotely monitored by the municipal corporations. 100% door-to-door collection should be there. 100% segregation into dry waste and domestic hazardous. 100% treatment of wet waste by composting and waste to energy projects. So, segregation is very difficult to achieve and citizen participation is more important here. So, now our company is doing this solid waste management projects in 10 different organizations, and we have to train the people what is dry waste, what is wet waste, what is domestic hazardous waste. For example, all the things in kitchen, food items, they are wet waste. Plastic, paper, glass, metal, it is dry. Sanitary napkins, then diapers, they are domestic hazardous waste. So every house there should be 3 dustbin outside. So that is very difficult to achieve, and that's why there is problem of managing the solid waste. Then 100% treatment of wet waste. So suppose wet waste is segregated, then from house it is collected separately, but the municipality, your housekeeping staff should also collect separately. Then housekeeping staff should give to the municipal staff separately. So wet waste should go in the wet waste truck, dry waste should go in dry waste truck, and hazardous waste should go into the hazardous waste truck. Then this wet waste which is collected should be 100% treated. So that is partly through aerobic composting, like formation of manure, and there should be waste to energy projects also. For example, typically 10 metric ton per day project in which the wet waste will be converted into biogas. Biogas can be used as fuel, or biogas can be enriched and used as a fuel for your transportation buses. So problem of this diesel and petrol is solved. So that should be the target. Then dry waste should be 100% recycled. Plastic should be used for manufacturing of plastic or construction of roads, etc. Paper should be again used to manufacture of paper. So that is achieved. That is our solid waste management rules 2016 say. Committee was formed under Dr. Kasturi Rangan, and this 2016 solid waste management rules are adopted by the country, and it is legally mandatory. It is not that yes, ideal objective. It is legally mandatory. You can be fined if you not followed. But unfortunately, these rules are not strictly followed, and therefore our cleanliness is not improving. The moment you don't pay your GST tax, you are charged penalty at a rate of 50 rupees per day. But you can throw your solid waste outside by disfollowing the law, and nobody is penalized. That's why this is happening. So this penalty should be also there, so that these laws of solid waste can be maintained. Decentralized solid waste treatment for gated communities. All these buildings, for example, flat systems, no solid waste should come out from their premises. Commercial establishments like big restaurants, big hotels, 5-star hotels, they should treat their own solid waste. ODF cities, like open defecation, should be avoided, and you should provide adequate number of public toilets. Like cities like Singapore, Melbourne, their public toilets are very aesthetic in nature. And then aspirations of key metrics. What are the aspirations regarding solid waste management and sanitation? 100% door-to-door garbage collection, 100% waste segregated at source, and public toilets, you should increase the public toilets from say 23 to 50. So benchmark is there should be more than 50 number per lakh population. So these are the targets for the smart city for solid waste and sanitation. So friends, that's it. My time is also getting over. I think I have exceeded by 5-10 minutes. So thank you very much, and if you have any questions, you are welcome to ask. Thank you very much for patient listening and for tolerating me for such a long time.
Thank you, sir. So I love you.
Thank you, thank you.
I can informative lecture.
Yes, sir.
So some of our contestants who have some questions.
Yes.
Here.
Okay, sure.
So can everybody know about is it difficult to implement the water sewerage project specific area and large infrastructure is needed? You know. Maybe how to implement the water and sewerage project in area large infrastructure needed. How to address this, sir? What is your opinion?
Can I repeat can the question be repeated? Large infrastructure.
It is difficult to implement water and sewerage projects specific to the area as large infrastructure is needed, of course. So, as particularly the entire city, okay. So, if this is needed, what you want to highlight?
See, actually what happens is that the city, when in the initial stages, if you plan these projects and implement these projects, there are no issues. The problem starts because of lack in proper planning. So first the city gets developed, and then we start planning and developing the projects. So particularly the vision should be there. For example, in Mumbai, South Mumbai part you might have visited, like where Mantralaya, Victoria terminal station. Now after 100 years also British have planned, people have planned, there is no problem, there is no traffic jam in that area. The sewerage system is running properly, it is underground system, and that time it must be very big compared to the population. So if you plan it properly, there is no problem in implementation. And another problem is the financial problem. So because we are charging very less in water, you are not getting proper revenue from that, and you plan the project but there is no funds available for those projects, and therefore always that gap is there. So funding is another problem, and in big cities there are slums. So the problem to collect the sewage from the slums is again a big problem, and therefore the infrastructure is inadequate. There is the problem of non-revenue water, there is problem of leakages. So because of these issues, it is very difficult to implement these water and sewage projects.
Thank you, sir. And my one question is that now our schools have to enhance their skills. Skill enhancement required. The smart cities are coming. So how to get a job in a smart city? What are the various skill enhancement required from the students? How, as a teacher, how we can build our skills?
Yes, very good question. So as you know, our civil engineering students, they teach, we teach them subjects like structural design, then how to design a water treatment plant, how to building design drawing, foundation engineering. So there are so many, transportation, railways, docks and harbors. Our syllabus is very vast and we don't get specialization in a particular subject. So firstly they should focus in which areas they want to make career, and they should focus on that particular area. And then, as I was telling during my lecture, they should focus on getting interdisciplinary skills. For example, while doing their education, they should do one course on AutoCAD. Like civil engineering, AutoCAD is very important. And even if there is maybe some subject of AutoCAD, their expertise is not to that level. Structural engineering students should have expertise in STAAD Pro, various software tools. Then they should also learn computer programming like C language, C++ language, and automation like PLC, SCADA. They should have preliminary